This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
What is up, Spurs Nation? It's your boy Rob from buckingspurs.com, and you are listening to a Bucking Spurs podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk about some things that I'm excited about, 4 things in particular that get me excited about this 2019 season, and some things that are a little bit concerning to me. And I know we're just 3 games in. I'm going to treat this kind of like a parent conference that happens in the beginning of the year, right? First week of school, and we're already having a parent conference. One of these parents wants to come in and just tell us about their kid and, just want you to know this is how they are and this is the type of help they need. And if you need anything, let me know, whatever. It's the first week of school. Let's just drop this beat.
It's not supposed to be easy. Every round gets tougher. Penetrate hard. Good passes. Shoot with confidence. I want some nasty.
Win, lose, no matter. You make good fight and respect. Then nobody bother.
I'm going to keep that Miyagi quote in there until the preseason's over because that's the attitude. We don't worry about nothing right now. Wins and losses don't matter, but we can start being analytical, right? So, like I said earlier, parent walks through the door, first week of school, all the teachers there are like, really? And they're like, hi, I'm Joshua's mom, or I'm Katie's mom, or whatever. And we're like, we don't know who that is. We have like 150 students. We don't know who your kid is. This is the first week of school. It's way too early to be having a parent meeting, and it's way too early to be getting freaked out about NBA preseason basketball. But nonetheless, in a parent-teacher conference, you always have to be like, you know what? You gotta hit them with all the good stuff first, because a parent doesn't want to come in and just be told, oh, this and that, negative about their kid, or how they're acting up, or how they can't behave, or whatever. So we always got to talk about the great things, the good things first. So that's how we're gonna address this episode. 4 things that get me excited about the San Antonio Spurs this season so far, in this kind of preseason run that we've had. First, it's got to be DeJounte Murray. I can see how we're going to be playing a lot faster. I think he's going to be doing a lot of great things for DeMar DeRozan. I think that he's going to be able to really push the ball up for Bryn, and he's going to be able to get to the hole at will. I've seen him take a couple shots, right? His shot looks smooth. His 3-ball looks smooth. He's taken a couple mid-range jumpers. But I don't think that's his number one weapon. I think I've also seen him turn down some shots. Now, if you're asking me how have I seen this and none of these games have been televised, well, I find a way, okay? I find a way. The internet's a beautiful thing, okay? You just gotta kind of mine it to get what you want out of it. But DJ has also turned down some shots, right? And I think every time he turns down a wide open shot, it's because he's about to put his head down or make a move and get to the rim. So DJ playing with confidence in his body is something that's very positive going into our 4th preseason game and into the regular season. I wouldn't be surprised in these next 2 games we start seeing a downtick in minutes. I think like in the beginning we saw an uptick, a very slow, gradual uptick in those first 3 games. All right, he played a little bit, played a little bit more, but now we're like, okay, we've thrown 20-minute games at him. He's done okay. He's confident in his leg. Now let's start taking that down a little bit and start getting these young guys a little bit more reps, because the season's about to start. We don't want to have anything crazy happen in the beginning of the year. just like we did last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. But the confidence that Derek is showing in his body, he's taken a couple really nice drives to the rim where he's now like taking off one leg and landing on one leg, and that just shows a lot of confidence, a lot of trust in his body, and that's beautiful to see. That's number one. Number two has got to be our boy Bryn, right? I mean, one of the most surprising things of this preseason is that Bryn has been able to come out the gate swinging, and he's like showing off his body, man. This guy's super strong and athletic. You could tell he's been putting in that work in the summer. He looks good. Against the Pelicans, he had this really nice catch. He ripped baseline and just took the baseline, took one dribble, his 2 steps, and just jammed it in front of the rim. It's like, whoa, Bryn. Okay, Bryn. Not only is he shooting lights out from the 3-ball, and his pull-up jumper off one dribble looks great. He looks like he's actually being more aggressive on the offensive end. And I don't know if that's going to be an all-season thing or if it's just a preseason thing, but you can tell that they've given him the green light. You can tell that the trust is there from the organization and the coaching staff, and he's earned it, like I've said before. And he's showing it right now in these first preseason games that he has the confidence to play at that level. I mean, he's doing some things that we've never seen him do. I know a lot of talk is that he's in his contract year and that he's playing for a big contract and that he wants to get big money somewhere. And you know what? I don't know, man. Here's my caution to Bryn Forbes about all that. We've seen this happen, man. We've seen it happen with Gary Neal. We've seen it happen with Jonathan Simmons. We've seen it happen with all these guys that get developed through the Spurs and make a name for themselves, right? And actually showcase on a playoff level that they're able to compete at a high level, right? And then they leave the Spurs. And then they're out of the league in about 2 to 3 years because they go take the money somewhere else, and there goes their career because that other team can't utilize them the way we did, or they can't develop them or harness their skills the way that we do, right? So I hope that this isn't one of those cases for Bryn. I hope Bryn's one of these guys that's like, look, I want to stay in San Antonio. I'm willing to take a little bit less, give me like a 4-year deal, give me, 8-10 million instead of maybe 12 or 13, or he can probably get somewhere else. Like, let's take a little bit less, but let's lock him in here in San Antonio where he knows he's going to have another contract beyond that one, right? That's something that we can do for Bryn. And for the way he's playing right now, he's playing with a confidence that we've never seen. Without a doubt, I think that he's proving that he should be the starting 2 guard on our team, that lineup needs spacing, and he's going to be the one that's going to be knocking down those shots to spread the floor. LaMarcus might shoot a little bit more. You never know. DeMar DeRozan, I haven't seen him take a 3 in this game, I don't think. I haven't seen, not even in the open scrimmage, I don't think he took a 3. So we'll see. We've seen LaMarcus do it, right? So Bryn is having a hell of a busting out party here in the preseason. Hopefully that carries on, but from these first 3 games, that's something I'm very, very excited about. Now, the third thing that I'm very excited about is a combination of players, and there's 2 sets here, and I'm going to go over them separately. Let's start off with our new guys. DeMarre Carroll and Lonnie Walker DeMarre Carroll and Trey Lyles have looked really good, and I think they're really going to fit into what we're doing. Let's start with DeMarre Carroll. He is a ultimate 3-and-D guy. I can see it. I haven't seen consistency on the defensive side of the ball from him, but there's been some plays where he locks up and he puts in a little bit more extra effort on the defensive end. You can see like, oh, okay, this guy has the size, he has the length, he has the athleticism to stay down low in front of somebody on the defensive end. On the offensive end, the athleticism isn't really there, but he can also really move well without the ball. There was this one play also in against New Orleans where he he caught the ball, faked a dribble handoff to Patty, and then he gave a handoff to Marco and just like sprinted to the wing, and then Marco found him for a wide open 3. Now that lineup was actually pretty interesting. You had Chimezie Metu, who I'm about to talk about right now, as the small ball 5, and then you had Patty Mills, 3-point shooter, Marco Bellinelli, 3-point shooter, Bryn Forbes, 3-point shooter, and DeMar Carroll, 3-point shooter. That was an interesting lineup because that's what we're doing right now. We're playing around with all these lineups, and that was one that I just liked. They were just moving well without the ball, and he pulled that three and he hit it. So DeMar Carroll is going to be very important to what we do this year, and if he could just stay healthy and be a veteran presence, we're going to be all right. Now, the big one I feel like this season is Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles seems like a guy who's going to help everybody else get better just by his natural flow of the game. He's not a guy who really looks to get his own. I think that he's like that Boris Diaw type guy. I'm not saying he's the big croissant, right? He's not the big croissant, but he can definitely play like him. Where when he gets the ball, he's looking to set someone up, find somebody cutting, he's able to pass the ball very well. And if he needs to score, he will. Right, so he's going to be that piece that makes every other piece that we have on the floor work. I mean, he started for LaMarcus Aldridge in this last game. He didn't play the first two because we found out it was a respiratory infection or illness, but he got the start against New Orleans, and he played well. He's someone who I'm very excited to see be around the organization for a long time. If he could fit that Boris Diaw role, he will find a place in this organization for a very long time. Right, so I'm excited there. All right, so I'm going to tie these two things in together at number 3 here is Lonnie, Walker, and Chimezie Metu, right? So Chimezie is the one that's been the big surprise, I think, to everybody in Spurs Nation. That's because none of us have seen him play in about a year and a half, right? And we saw him play very little here and there last season when he got called up, but he spent most of his time in Austin. He missed the Summer League. He had a very good FIBA World Cup showing for Nigeria. So what I've seen out of Chimezie so far is that he can create his own shot. That I think that he's a lot like LaMarcus Aldridge in the way that he plays, where a lot of these other young big guys, they want to just catch the ball and just give it up. They're just looking to give it up or find, move it. They're not looking to score or get their own. And I feel like that's not Chimezie at all. Chimezie has the capability to catch that ball and go get you one. He can go attack the rim. He has a little mid-range game. He can catch some alley-oops. They've thrown a couple alleys throughout this preseason, and he's usually the guy at the end of those. And he's catching them and putting them down. He can move well. He has good movement on his body. So we'll see how he does on the defensive end. The defensive end is always going to be what gets you on the floor, and I think it's just reps. I think that's all he needs because he has the athleticism, and he can be a threat on the offensive end. Where as someone like Drew Eubanks, I think he can too. But where I say Chimezie is a lot like LaMarcus, I think that Drew is very much like Jakob Poeltl, right? In the way that they play offensively, at least. Now let's talk about Lonnie. Lonnie has it's been kind of weird with the minutes. He played a lot in that first game, didn't play that much in the second game, played just a little bit in the first half against New Orleans. But what have we seen? I mean, we've seen him be very good in transition. We've seen that he has a passing ability that's underrated, and I think that a lot of people knew that he can pass, and they think he can be a point guard. I don't think so. He can be out there with like a Patty Mills or a Quindary or Derek White and bring up the ball, but he's not a point guard. But because he's so, we've seen it in flashes as well. We've seen not only his passing skill, but we've seen his scoring skill. The guy, when he's looking to get his own, and that's the other thing too. I feel like he hasn't had a chance to really get in rhythm, because there's been a few times where he does take his 1-2 dribbles and pulls up, or he attacks the rim, and he looks so smooth the way he does it, and you just wonder why he doesn't do it more. I just think he hasn't gotten a rhythm behind himself yet, and I think that will come during the regular season when the minutes are more consistent, and from a game-to-game basis, he knows, okay, I'm looking at 8 to 12 or whatever it is, not now where it's like, okay, he's only going to play a little bit in the first half, and then they're looking to get all these G League guys a lot of minutes, like Derek Lawson. Derek Lawson's a guy who has been playing a lot during this preseason, and we just waived him today. And to me, that's just a classy move on Pop and the organization. They're like, look, we know what we have in these guys. We're going to let Derek Lawson play a lot in the fourth quarter. See if he can get himself an opportunity to get on someone else's team, right? Or make a G League team somewhere. I feel like that's what we're doing. And by doing that, the same thing with Hummus, even though I know that Holmes or Hummus, however say his name, is a great player, and he's going to be with us in Austin. I believe we signed him. But same kind of deal, right? We're going to try to get these guys reps before we give our veterans reps, and per se, not veterans, but you know what I mean, at least in the second half of these games. So that doesn't let these guys get a real good game flow behind them. And Lonnie's going to be there. Lonnie's going to be fine. It's just a matter of time. Defense, he's been a little bit iffy here and there. There's been some questionable decisions that I think Lonnie has made on the defensive end. There's some times where he shows that he can be a great defender, and then there's some times where it's like, shit, that was Lonnie again, man, so, but I think all that is going to fix itself with repetition, because Lonnie's going to put the work in, and we know that. So those are the areas the top 3 areas. I got one more for you of something that it's excited me. Now, let me tell you what, the main thing that's excited me all season long is here, number 4, and that's that our starting unit is actually pretty damn good. It's kind of taken me by surprise how well they play in the first quarter. I think in every game that we've played so far, where everyone has played and everybody was healthy, I think that our starting unit with DeJounte Murray, Bryn Forbes, and DeMar DeRozan is pretty damn good. And I think that I think we all expected DeJounte to be able to give us a new look, and I was kind of hesitant to let Derek go, because I really love the way we played last year with Derek, and I still think that them two starting together would be defensively the best look, and I think that those two guys are going to play together a lot during the season. Don't get me wrong, of course they are. There's going to be games where they close games together, right? Or come out the second half together, or things like that. But starting out the game, the way that Bryn has been shooting and DeJounte has been looking to push the ball, it's something quite special. I think he's catching DeMar DeRozan flying to the rim a lot more, and they're looking for Jakob a little bit more, I think, this year than they did last year too. And when they're playing together like that, they look pretty damn good. Now on the defensive end, well, that's to be seen, because it's preseason. I don't want to get on them too much, because DeMar, LaMarcus, those guys are just vets. They're not going to try hard on the defensive end in the preseason. They're just not. But those are my top 4 things that got me very excited about this season. First off was DJ looking good. Second was Bryn is playing on another level, on another planet right now. And then third was Trey Lyles and Damari Carroll have been looking like they're about to fit right in. Lonnie and Chimezi look like those are the 2 guys that are going to be stepping it up in minutes wise for us this year. And our starting unit looks pretty damn good. All right, so we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to go over the 4 areas of growth, right? We just talked about the 4 areas of glow. 4 areas that look good. Now let's talk about some things that we need to work on, huh? All right, we'll be right back.
Want to know what life is really like after the game is all over? Real athletes are here to share their true stories of adversity and triumph every week on After Orange Slices. Even if you don't like sports, pro athletes, former college stars, celebrities, coaches, public speakers, doctors, and all kinds of experts join the show, and there's a little bit of something for everybody. Join me, Bridget, for a slice of inspiration, plus your everyday sports news sprinkled in. New episodes every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, available anywhere you get your podcasts.
One of the areas that really concerns me about this season is Derek White, and I know that he just had a hell of a summer. I know that he's been working his tail off for Team USA, and he's had limited rest and all these things, and he's come out and said that he feels fine, that's not an issue. When they asked him about how he's been playing, he's kind of just shrugged it off, over and over again, and just saying, look, I'm getting good shots, I'm missing layups, those things are going to fall in time. And I think that's the right mindset to have. Now, him coming off the bench versus him starting, I think is going to take more figuring out to do. So the first area that I'm concerned with that's going to need some growth throughout this season, and hopefully it doesn't take too long, is Derek White adjusting to his new role. And to be honest, the time factor is just what I'm worried about. And I think that he's going to do fine with it. I just hope it doesn't take 15, 20 games, 25 games for him to actually be a contributor coming off the bench. I mean, we all know how it was for Manu. Manu would come off the bench and it was Manu time, right? Right from the get-go. He was impacting the game. He was scoring when he could. He knew that was always his number one option, was to go get a bucket, and two was to play make for everyone else and get everyone else better. And I feel like Derek White's got to take a similar route to that. And they asked Rudy Gay about Derek, actually, and he's like, because Rudy Gay went through the similar phase, right? He was a starter the most of his career, and then started coming off the bench at some point. And how do you still be effective? What has to change is different, and he was like, well, it takes time. That's the first thing he said, is it takes time. And that's what worries me. How much time is it going to take? Because by the looks of this preseason, he does not look all that comfortable coming off the bench. And I think it's because he's adjusting, right? And let's talk about the way he played on the starting unit last year. He was a guy who always looked to get everyone else going first, right? He always came down, looked for LaMarcus, looked for DeMar, and then he would know where to pick his spots, right? And be aggressive on the offensive end and go get himself a bucket. And when he did, he got himself buckets. Now, it was a little bit of a slower game. He could push the ball in transition, but not as fast as DJ, let's just be honest. So I feel like that role that I just described can't be his role. He's got to flip it coming off the bench. When he comes off the bench, it's like, hey, push the ball and go get yourself some buckets, and then look to set someone else up, because he's not out there playing with the starting caliber unit. You know what I mean? Like, he's not playing with DeMar and LaMarcus. He's playing with guys like Patty and Damari Carroll or Trey Lyles or Lonnie Walker, some other guys that are great players. But I think Derek is on another level. And he's just got to learn how to bring that coming off the bench when his name is called. He said it too. He's like, I just got to be ready whenever my name's called and bring the energy. And I don't know how he's taking it. I hope, the media isn't pushing it on him too much about, hey man, like, how do you feel about coming off the bench? Do you feel like you should be starting? I don't want to hear all that, because he's a guy that's going to do whatever the team needs him to do. And Derek's minutes are going to be there. And it kind of hurts me a little bit, man, because man, if you were a fan last year and we were all up on DeJounte for that season, and when he goes down, we were heartbroken. But when he went down, a lot of us true Spurs fans were out here like, you know what? I kind of feel like Derek's ready, that he's going to need a little bit of time, but I kind of feel like he's ready. Like, we all kind of felt like that last year, and sure enough, man, it took about 20 games, and by the All-Star break, right before the All-Star break, around December, he was playing like he belonged, right? And so to see him just automatically get moved back to the bench, to me, is kind of like, I don't know about that. I wanted him to start. I wanted them both to start, but it is what it is. I feel like he's going to be fine. It's just going to take him a little bit of time, but just what worries me is how much time is that going to take, right? All right, number 2, what worries me is how are we going to manage Patty and Marco? Because by the looks of it, in this preseason, they're like extremely important, like to what we're trying to do. When our second units don't look all that good, and again, it's the combination of players that are out there that we're playing with, the newness of Trey Lyles and Damari, and the newness of Lonnie and Chimezi, right? And all these young guys too. Like, it's gonna take time, but it's funny because every time they can't get it going, it's like, dude, like, we're just like, where's Marco? Where's Patty? Can we just, and then they come through, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, like, we need them. It's obvious that we need them here in the preseason, and to me, I'm just like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna have to rely on them a little bit more than I thought. But then again, I'm like, no, we can't. We have to manage their minutes, because they just had a big summer, and We need them healthy for April, May, June, you know? So I'm just a little bit interested. I don't want to say worried, but I know there's going to have to be some management there, you know, either on DMPs where they don't play, or just, you know, minute restrictions on those guys on a game-to-game basis. And, you know, who's going to step up in those roles, you know? And I think that's Lonnie, and I think that's Chimezi, man. Like, those two guys are going to have to step up and fill in the gaps here and there, right? Damari Carroll was shooting threes, and, you know, because Patty's an all-pro for us. He's like the dude that's running the show, like on and off the court. He's the one that makes us go in the locker room. He's the one that keeps the mindset where it needs to be. He's so important to what we do. We cannot have him go out like on an injury or fatigue or something like that. Like, we really have to be careful with these two guys. And just by the looks of the preseason, it's like, man, we need them, you know. So it's just, you know, we need them a little bit more than I'd hoped coming out the gates. I hope that we're gonna maybe rely on Lonnie Walker a little bit more, or give these young guys some rookies some run. But nah, man, like we've needed Patty, and we've needed Marco, and we've needed them so much, and we've also needed them, and we've still lost, right? So managing their minutes is number 2. Number 3 is just the obvious one, is turnovers and transition defense, right? Turnovers lead to transition buckets for the opposite team, right? So, and that's something, again, that I don't want to get too crazy about, because I think we all know that, okay, our starters are playing the first quarter and that's it. Like, we rarely get our starting unit back out there together, maybe a little bit in the third, but just a little bit, you know what I mean? And then they're off. Then they're getting a lot of bench players, some PT in the third. Then in the fourth quarter, it's like, guys, you don't even know, right? It's Derek Lawson and Holmes, right? So our starting unit looks pretty good, and our bench unit's turning over the ball a lot. I mean, our starting unit turned it over quite a bit too early on, but that's something that's concerning. And to me, that's just like, dude, when we have DeJounte and Derek White out there on the floor, like, you know, at all times, one of those guys are going to be out there. We should have a pretty good defensive effort, and we should have a point guard who's not going to be turning over the ball that much. And honestly, that has not been the case. So it's a little bit worrying, but nothing too crazy. These are things that we can fix. Transition D, getting back in transition has been a big like factor in every game that we've played so far. We've been giving up crazy transition buckets for the past 3 games, and again, I think that's about like, you know, who's on the floor or whatnot. But then again, like, transition defense is all effort. You know what I mean? So you know that these guys are going over that every single day in practice, but come game time, we're turning the thing over, and we're getting killed in transition. So a little bit worried about that, but it's something that I know will fix itself as the season goes on and minutes get adjusted, and personnel and roles get figured out a little bit more, and on the defensive side of the ball we'll be okay as well. You know, it's a process. I'm a coach. I know how it goes. Like, in the beginning of the season, you work on it, you grind it, and it's not really until, you know, district time comes around where you're actually like seeing them float through it on their own, right? And that's when you can kind of keep it as a point of focus, but also work on some other things. And that's going to be the length of the season too, is we're gonna see this get better and get better over the season. So that's something that a little bit that I'm concerned with. The fourth thing that I'm a little bit concerned with, and honestly sucks, man. I mean, I kind of feel like most of you all out there, probably if you were watching this game, which I know most of y'all weren't, which is, I know a lot of y'all mad because they're not showing these games, but I know y'all hungry for Spurs basketball, but believe me, it's not the Spurs basketball that y'all want to see. And since we're in these type of games, I've been wanting to see a lot more from our rookies, but let me tell you how usually it goes down. Quinndari's the first guy off the bench. Quinndary has looked really good. Quinndary has looked like he's actually able to contribute at this level right now, on the offensive end. Keldon looks a little bit sporadic on both ends of the floor. You could tell that his competitive edge is like sharp as hell, and that he's ready to go, and he wants to be out there, and he's ready to compete, and he just wants you could tell he wants it very bad. And again, it's just going to take time to develop these rookies. And so Keldon comes in next, and then with about 2 minutes left in the game, Luka checks in. About 2 minutes left in the game, Maybe he touches the ball when he gets out there. Maybe. The most run we've seen out of him so far has really been in the scrimmage at the AT&T Center. He hit 2 threes in a row. But other than that, we don't really know much. Maybe that's going to change in these next 2 preseason games. Maybe we try to give him a little bit more minutes instead of giving it to Dalton Holmes, Derek Lawson, who's no longer here. We just signed some guy today named I don't even know, Robinson Jr. I don't even know. We signed some dude today, and he's a G League guy. But now I'm afraid that guy's going to take even minutes away from Luka. Where's Luka's minutes? I want to see Luka play. And it's okay, I just want to see him play. What? Is he that bad in practice? I don't think he's that bad in practice. And for him to be the last guy off the bench, where I feel like he could get some minutes in the third quarter, early in the fourth. He only gets 2 minutes a game. He's literally the last guy off the bench. Oh man, as our 19th overall draft pick in the 2019 draft, the first round, for him to be seeing less minutes than everyone else on the floor, oh, it just sucks. So this last concern that I'm talking about is about our rookies. I don't know. I really think that they can contribute. And when you hear everyone talk about those guys in the post interviews, they talk about how they're young and they're athletic and they're ready and things like that, and they look good and they're going to be special players and all that stuff. But then when it comes to these first 3 games, we don't see them at all. So I don't know what's going on there. I feel like Keldon is a little bit ticked off. I feel like Luka's just when don't you let me play, coach? Quinndari's yeah, give me these minutes, bro. Quinndari's eating up these minutes straight up. Quinndary looks good when he's out there, and they all look okay when they're out there, but they're just not out there enough. And it's preseason, I don't know, dude. Why are we giving all these minutes to Dalton Holmes? I'm totally cool with Dalton. I think he's gonna be a good player. Actually, I hope that Dalton stays with the Austin Spurs for about a year, maybe even 2 years, and then comes and suits up for San Antonio in about 3 years, because I have a feeling he's gonna be a special player. But Luka was our first round draft pick. Where are these guys' minutes? I don't know. So that's a little bit concerning. So to me, as a guy who wants to see them in San Antonio more than they are in Austin, it's not that I don't want to see him in Austin. I know Austin's going to be good for him. I've been saying that since the get-go, but I've also been saying that San Antonio can be beneficial for them too. And I think that those guys are ready to compete and learn and make mistakes and get better at the NBA level. But as this preseason rolls on, that gets farther and farther and farther away from any of my expectations. So that's it. Top 4 areas of glow, top 4 areas of grow. Make sure that you guys go ahead and go to buckingspurs.com to get this content, to get all the content that I'm doing, the YouTube videos, everyone on YouTube that's been responding and being so awesome and saying all this awesome stuff, and you guys are enjoying it out there. I'm glad. I'm doing it for you guys out there in Hawaii, out there in Japan, Spurs fans all over the place. Thank you guys, right? Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast jam on. We are there. All the podcasts are there at buckingspurs.com. You can also get some Bucking Spurs merch and just some San Antonio themed, shirts and, laptop sleeves, iPhone cases, things like that. Just, stuff that I've come up with that you guys might like. Go ahead and check it out there. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. We got a couple more preseason games in front of us. We got Houston and we have Memphis. All right, so don't be surprised if we take 2 more L's and run out of this preseason 0-5, but then come out the gates pretty on fire. Right, we know our starting unit looks good. It's not time to freak out or anything, but those are some areas that we need to work on, and some areas that are going to be very exciting for us this season. All right, so all that being said, this is a Big Heads Media podcast from bigheadsmedia.com. Go ahead and check out all their other podcasts. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Go Spurs, go. Win or lose, no matter. All that matters is we put up good fight and get respect.
Win, lose, no matter. You make good fight and respect. Then nobody bother.
Welcome to the Podell and Piquel Show. I'm your host, Garrett Podell. Alongside me is my co-host, Jonathan Piquel. We're here to give you the real deal in sports, and we have the best guests in the world of sports. We've had NFL Hall of Fame finalists, multiple Olympians, pro athletes across the NFL, MLB, and NBA, as well as golf. Tune in to see who could be stopping by this week.